For this video tutorial, we have in front of you a layout of a space. So we have the back of the room, we have our right, left, ceiling, and our flooring. We are going to create a one-point perspective of a bedroom with a piece of furniture. I have in place for myself my horizon line. The horizon line is that eye level line. And in the center of the room, I have my point, which I'm going to distinguish as my one point, which is the vanishing point. I've placed a grid in the center and on both walls, and then along the sides of the wall to represent the height of the room. The grid and the scale size that I am using is going to be a 1/4 of an inch scale. First, I'm going to create a window to the left of my wall here, and I'm going to say my window starts 3 feet from the back of the room. So I'm going to come to my 3-foot mark and go ahead and draft me a line straight down. My window is going to be 4 feet wide, so I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, because these are marked and they represent each foot. From here, I'm going to say that my window starts 3 feet from the floor. So going to the back wall, I'm going to measure up to where I have 3 feet, and I'm going to place my triangle here at the 3-foot mark, and it will go through the vanishing point because our lines converge through that vanishing point. And then I'm going to say my window is 3 feet tall. So I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3. That takes me to the 6-foot mark, and place my triangle once again at the point through the vanishing point. So 6-foot mark through the vanishing point, and now I can draft my line. Going through my drawing, I am going to erase things that I don't need. So let's remove these extra lines that were extended, at least around the window here. So now we have our completed window. When we want to add things like our trim, then we would do the same thing. We will use our scale and measure. If we want to have 3-inch scale trim, we can go and make our mark at 3 inches on both sides of the window. And once again, use your straight edge to create yourself a line at your point. Here we go. And then where we had our 6 feet and 3 feet, I'm going to again measure 3 inches. So on the side here, I'm going to measure down 3 inches. And then at the number 6, I'm going to measure up 3 inches. And I have my marks. They're pretty light here. I'm going to make sure I take my triangle, put it directly on the mark, and make sure that it goes through that vanishing point. And then draft my lines to connect my trim seal and the top of my window here. And once again, of course, you can go through and erase things that you don't need. Once again, those are these lines here that are extending down and above. Just using that eraser shield as a guide for myself here. Okay, if we have floor trim, we would do the same. We would measure the 3 inches. We can do this along the sides here, make our mark, and just simply draft our lines as long as they converge through the vanishing point. I'm not going to put trim on the back wall. I'm just going to put it on our side walls for a moment here. So lining up, that point through the vanishing point. I have my floor trim. Using my horizontal line, make a mark to the other side, and then I have to converge through that vanishing point to get in the opposite side of my floor trim. If we wanted to say our room has an opening, and that opening here is, let's move my drawing back in place here. There we go. My opening starts at this point, and I'm measuring and just seeing that I have like a 3-foot opening, and it has a height of 6 feet. 6 feet through the vanishing point. I'm going to draft a line, and now I've created myself some type of opening in this space. I'm going to erase the lines that I don't need. Okay, so we have a room layout with some possible openings, such as a window or maybe another room here that goes off. Create a floor line for that, and then also create yourself a ceiling line that says, hey, we're going out into another space. And that's that trim, and then here we go. Okay, so that's that. Now we need to go ahead and draft ourselves a piece of furniture. We're going to say that we're standing at the front of the room, looking back. Our eyesight is going to that vanishing point, and here we're going to say we're in front of the bed. What I suggest is that we're going to create our bed on the back wall here. Let's say that our headboard, or the width of our bed is 5 feet. So we're going to say it's placed at the center of the room. So 5 feet would be 2.5 feet on each side. So we're going to say 1, 2, and then just make ourselves a mark at the half, and then the opposite side, 1, 2, and make yourself a mark at the half. At this time, I can take my vertical line and draft it straight down to say, okay, this is the border of my bed. So that's how wide my bed is on the wall. I'm also going to say that this bed is not sitting directly on the floor. So let's say it's about 3 inches. We're gonna, just for now, say there's a small gap. We're gonna bring it up to our trim. Our bed starts at our trim. So we already have that mark, so let's draw it in. And that's the bottom of like a footboard or a platform or whatnot. I'm going to also say that my bed, in the front view of it, I have a platform that it sits on, or a footboard or a base, and that base is from where it starts, grabbing my scale here. Let's say that our base comes up about a foot. So I'm just taking this from my 3 inches, or that mark where the bed starts. I'm going to measure up 1 foot. That puts me at 1.5 on my scale, my pre-drawn scale here. And I'm going to take a straight line and create a horizontal line across to represent my footboard. So here we have our footboard, or a platform that your mattress sits on. So now we need to draw, what does the mattress look like? Again, remember, this is the elevation. So let's say our mattress has another thickness, but we're taking that thickness of the mattress and we're just going to account for what do we see past the footboard. And we see about So a nice thick mattress. Another 1/2 inch, or we could say a foot. Let's go another foot up from the top of your footboard or platform and say that's the top part of the mattress that we see. Our mattress sits down on this, but we see a foot of it above our footboard or platform. That's the top of the mattress. Making my mark, and I'm going to draft it across. That puts us at like 2.5 if we are looking on the side of our scale here. So now we have the elevation view, and we're going to say this is the mattress. I'm just going to abbreviate it and say MAT. And then the rest of the bed is our headboard. So once we're ready and we're finished with this, we can create and draft our headboard to however we want it to look. From here, we can now begin to put this in perspective. So we're going to say that our bed is 6 feet off of the back wall. So we're going to measure from the corner and count over to 6 feet. When we get to that 6-foot mark on our scale that we have drawn, I'm going to lightly draft myself a line down to the floor on both sides, so I know, okay, this is how far out the bed comes into the room. And from there, I'm going to create myself a horizontal line directly across. Okay, this is the front of my bed. Or how far it comes out into the space. From here, I'm going to move my paper just a little bit. I'm moving. From here, I'm now going to say, okay, I need to account for how wide my footboard is going to go. So I did 2.5 for my elevation, so I need to go 2.5 on my side walls on both sides. So 2, and then go to the half mark. And I can draft a line down, or I can just bring it up a little bit there. And then on the opposite side, I'm going to go from 2, so that's 1, and then my half mark is about here. And now from this mark, I'm going to begin to converge my lines. I also am going to account for where my line comes across. So in doing that for my footboard, I'm going to come to where it came out on the wall and draft myself another horizontal line and say, this is the space for my footboard. If you need to erase the lines that you don't need, so you won't have any confusion. At this time, I can take my triangle and go ahead and begin to line my items up. So knowing how far my mattress comes out, I'm going to go from the end point of my mattress, or actually let's do the footboard first. The footboard to the vanishing point. And then I'm going to do that on the opposite side. Footboard from the vanishing point to the point of the footboard, and here we have our line. So we have something going on here. I actually put that at the wrong spot on this side. Let me come over to the bottom of that footboard. Actually, this line is incorrect, and this line was correct. So going back to my footboard here, through my vanishing point. Okay, so this is where it met my 2.5 on this side, and it met on that side, and now again I can draft that line across to clean it up. Now we need to draw in our mattress. Well, looking at our elevation, we're going to draw our mattress. It's not going to come all the way to the edge of the bed. We're going to give a little gap because we want to show that it's kind of sitting in a platform. So just a couple inches on each side. I'm going to do like a 1/2 inch in to represent the line for my mattress on both sides. And now I can create my lines through my vanishing point to show my mattress. From the top of my mattress through the vanishing point, I'm going to draft another line out. And then I'm just starting on the right side. And then I'm going to also account for my mattress on the wall. So if I went in a few inches, I'm going to come in from where my platform was. I went in like a 1/2 inch. I'm going to draft that line down. So where this mattress line came, then I can go ahead and draft myself the line for the point of my mattress. And in bringing that over to the opposite side, again, I'm going to draft a line down. And say, okay, this represents my mattress. Now I can go through and erase lines that I don't need to prevent confusion in my drawing. I'm also going to remove this floor trim because now my bed is being seen, or mattress, and not my trim in the area closer to the back wall. I also can remove this line here as well. So now we have to get that mattress back to the vanishing point. So in lining up the corner of your mattresses, the front all the way to the back, so we can show how it connects to the bed and through that vanishing point. Everything should line up, and it does. And do the same for the opposite side. And once again, we're going to go through and erase lines that we don't need. And it's important to erase as you go, because as you can see here, I have some lines that were removed that I do need back. I'm just going to go through and just hard line, soften edges, erase a little bit of this to show how it connects, and I have my bed created. Again, when you got a headboard, whatever your design is for your headboard, you can create it in that elevation view. Now in the beginning, before I erase this inside part of that elevation, remember I have my bed that is raised from the floor about a 1/2 inch here. So in that, I'm going to consider drafting in that mark that I had created at the 6. I want to consider now pulling that line across, and if you've erased it, you can redraft it and say, okay, I'm going to draft in, use this line to create the legs if they're shown on my bed. If I want to draft them in the elevation view, I can, and then just pull the lines down to represent where they are placed on this bed. And I'll show that. If I say, okay, my legs are about here on each side, I would have went from the vanishing point through the front of that leg, said, okay, I have a leg here and here. So now I have placement. So my leg or the foot, the bed looks like this, and then I would do the same, which will bring me to do that. I don't want to just eyeball it. I want to actually show it. So I have a leg here and the thickness here. So then I can show that as well. Once you are set, you can, of course, erase items you don't need. I've moved a little bit off of that vanishing point there. The only line that I don't want to erase is I want to keep the line here that showed the top of the mattress, because that way I can see how it connects. Once you bring that mattress line back, you can go through your drawing and erase more items so that you can now start creating a more realistic or softer feel to your drawing. So maybe, as I mentioned before, rounding off corners and softening the front look of your bedding to make the mattress have some detail, and even the frame, giving it some detail. And separating things, adding shapes for your comforter or any sheets, and then go through and, you know, adding yourself some pillows. Remember, anything on your back wall is drawn in elevation view. And you're all set, and you have your perspective, 1-point perspective to be precise, of your bed in your space with your 2 openings. And remember, we used a 1/4 inch scale.